Welcome to our first MP Cafe of the second semester, our What is Mind. So today we're going to have Annika presenting us the hardest prison to escape is our own mind.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna present to you the story of Elias the prisoner. Elias was the prisoner of the cell 37. He was guilty for robbery. In a deep confined cell, his mind echoes of a world that sounds that he could no longer touch. The wall of the cell reflects the labyrinth of his mind. He was not in prison because of a physical realm, but because of thoughts and ideas. His mind filled with a lot of complex ideas, combined together with experiences, cognitions, and senses and feelings. He decided to steal money for his wife based on influences of his bad experiences. His friend Daniel tried to persuade him to not to do it because he told him that his mind had biases in his perceptions of his bad experiences, so he could not think rationally. He didn't hear, he made a bad decision, and he committed the crime. Then he was overpowered by his guilt. He could no longer see himself ni his reflection. His sentence was guilty because of his guilt. In prison, the only thing that he could remember was the words of his judge, Fuster, who told him that he had formed biases in his perceptions thanks to the ones of his past experiences and the expectations of the future. Elias found himself trapped in a connective prison that he made because of perceptual replays for his past opportunities. His experiences become his jailers. He made a self-narrative that was stronger, confined him more than his own cell. Everything started because of his childhood that has a really bad memories and impact him in a powerful internal way. He felt guilt, anger, and sadness, and he could no longer get past through that. With his jailer, Leibniz, he comes with the conclusion that he decides to make an inner change because to protect himself from that experiences. So that's why he make that kind of decisions. He noticed that his perceptions have fooled him because of the feelings and his hatred for his father. He could only see himself, he had no one, and he could only see the things that he had lost. He reflecting his prison about his experiences and how caused them to be in prison. He remembered his friend Daniel explaining him how his decisions were biases and he could not make longer good decisions. He was haunted by the realizations of how easily the mind was influenced. But that made his eyes too open. He noticed that he has liberty in choosing good decisions and making good information. As Fuster explained, if you want good actions, you need to choose good information. And he noticed that he has the power to choose. Now Elias had escaped the deeper prison that was in his mind. He had learned that true liberation comes not from changing the world around him, but from shifting the way he perceived and experienced it. In the end, he realized that the most profound freedom was found in accepting and understanding the nature of his own consciousness. Now he understands that he has freedom to choose, to think, to do, to plan, to decide, to do, and to undo. And it's important to you to also understand that you have the power. Thank you.
So thank you, Annika. It was a very good story, very creative. Now we have Carla, who is going to present to us the mind as the perfect design.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to present to you mind as the perfect design. It's an approach of the question, what is mind? So first, when we think about this meta question about what is mind, it's a fact that goes beyond our understanding. We can say that the mind is not an organ as our heart physically, In my opinion, the mind is our bridge with the world. For example, the mind is accumulation of ingenuity. It has no age. It has with millions of connections every day, every second, every day of our life. And also it has the power to be free, to recreate, and to develop. The mind with the magic of connections. As Foster said, I suggest that in our cerebral cortex there is a free marketplace of cognites. I inspire in Foster, and that's why I compared the mind with economics. For example, specifically in a free market, we have to have supply and demand. We know that it's a spontaneous market. There are a lot of voluntary transactions and many connections 24/7. And also in a market, there is a competition. So the magic of components. As we know, as economics and the mind, there are some components that makes them work. For example, there are 3 main points, in my opinion. The first one is cooperation through a voluntary change, how connections in the mind cooperate to give a better performance, a better development in the world. Also, we have the role of prices. The purpose of the role of prices is to transmit specifically and important information. To transmit information and only to the ones who need to know. For example, when we have an idea or when we have a thought, we communicate to the world and we transmit information. Also, in economic freedom, we have the potential to choose to be free. Freedom to choose how to use, for example, in a free market, to use our income, how much to spend on ourselves and on what items. For example, in our minds, when we want to make a decision, we have the potential to choose when or in what type of things we decide. Also, we have feelings. We have the potential to choose in what type of things we have feelings or when to develop it more. And also, the mind as the soul of the brain, as Foster said, therefore the cortex remains free and free to do other things, such as thinking or imagining. Our mind is our motor in our bridge. We have the potential to imagine, to use our imagination. We can start to feel in, also to make decisions, to use our logic, and also to develop our creativity. So that's why as a humans, we have the power to recreate and to develop human life, hand in hand with freedom. Thank you.
So thank you, Carla. It was a very interesting topic. Now we have Carmela that's going to present us Your Mind is the Only Place Where Freedom Can Be Taken Away.
Good morning, everyone. About freedom, mind, and process, it's what more resounds through the meta question. So this is it was a question that I make to myself, that if we are a body with a mind or a mind with a body. And my conclusion was that we are a mind with a body, because our consciousness and this ability to think, to choose, is what truly defines us. And then for me, the body is just like this vehicle we go through life. Then our mind, why I have this first concept in my first slide about process, because the mind works with organization, and the mind organized through the distinctions that you make, and then your mind structures our perceptions, our experiences, our information in our mind, and then your mind shapes this our understanding by categorizing and distinguish we get the information we perceive. Then the mind as a process, for me, is more similar to a process. So this is my definition of mind. It is a process, not a thing. Even the mind has a physical reality, it is not a physical in itself. And then we have awareness, system 1 and system 2. And the author told us about the book is called Thinking Fast and Slow. And then you have this awareness of how you perceive and how you como organize the ideas, and this como self-consciousness about your inside and also your environment. And then you have system 1 and system 2. That is how you como do the process in your mind. System 1 is como easy things that don't need to como have this como very mindful process, and then you have system 2 that you have this como very mindful process. Then the creativity and dreams. For me, creativity and dreams are tools that mind use to understand and to process both the internal and external realities that you have in your environment. And this scientific understanding of the brain, como que it's evolving to recognize how this process superhuman freedom. And why human freedom? Because if you don't have on real world, if you don't have freedom in your mind, you don't have this como choice to imagine and to create como weird dreams, because you have like these determinants already that you can como have different dreams. I dream one thing and Jose dreams another thing, and you can see freedom in that. So creativity empowers freedom. And then we have freedom in action, this interaction between the brain and the environment that I'll mention already, allow como people to exercise their freedom. And then the information that receives the mind from the environment evaluates options and make decisions based on that information. And then I have this hard determinism and libertarian free will. And this is that debate that it's very important through history, and then have like this hard determinism that all you can have biological, material determinism, I think, and como you don't have freedom because these options or decisions or wherever is already in the world, so you can como choose. And then you have como the libertarian free will centers more on como whether human actions are predetermined or if individuals possess the freedom to make choices. And then we have Hobbes compatibilism, that it's mentioned on Foster's book, that he came to this compatibilism that you can have como this hard determinism in life, but then como que if it's not a coercion or como very hard como influence in your choices, you still have this free will. But I don't think that that's real. And then the power of decisions. This decision making involves evaluating options based on their probabilities and consequences before making a final choice. So you are always como choosing between two things or more, and then you make a decision. And here I want to mention how also the environment como influencing you. Like if you compare one Venezuelan citizen and one Guatemalan citizen, I do believe that the Venezuelan one, has como have freedom, but not as many options as we have. But he como que that como in that small choices that he have, he can choose. And then we have the brain-environment interaction and the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is very important because it's where como all the processes happen, como memory, when you choose, and others, and creativity. And this integrates como the environment and bodily information to evaluate options and to consider consequences, plan actions, strategies, and your choices. And then this is the evaluation and dimensions of freedom, and these are my conclusions. The brain evolution and adaptability. The human brain has evolved to anticipate consequences and adapt to its environment. So the brain is como the organ of where the mind is it, and we have this pre-adaptation that is very important as humans, that if you compare with an animal, the animal doesn't have. And then we have this also temporal perspective of freedom, como this looking both como backward and forward, incorporating past experiences and future possibilities. And then we have informed choice and freedom, that true freedom includes como not only choosing good, como choosing goals and action, but also como selecting the information that shapes these decisions. So you choose information and also you do decisions. And then the cognitive and knowledge, that neural networks in the cerebral cortex form the foundation of our knowledge and memory, influencing how we understand and interact with the world. Thank you.
So thank you, Carmela. It was a very interesting presentation. Now we have Nicole. It's going to present us the mind is a complex enigma. So instead of answering what it is, this enigma we should ask.
Hi everybody. So this is going to be a little bit different from a normal MP Cafe. So this is going to be based on questions. So I will ask for all of your attention and also your participation, please. And because we will ask the question of connection of our mind and our body. So first I'm going to go with the themes or my introduction. So we're going to review the thoughts, terms, and vocabulary and the knowledge acquired that we met in the meta question. And then we're going to, while I was doing this acquirement of knowledge, I asked questions around when I was in class. And this is the question that arose from the acquired knowledge. And then we're going to ask the main question, that is, how do things connect? What is connection? And how the body and the mind connect. So the overall themes that we saw on the meta question, the characteristics of the mind. The mind is not the brain. The brain is something physical. The brain is an organ that works for the mind. The mind doesn't, but the mind needs the brain to give a certain, to even live or exist. But the mind is not the brain. It's just an organ that just exists in our body. The mind and the body are not separate. The mind and the body are one. Why? Because the body and the mind work in correlation, are entangled between both our mind, both our senses and our perception and our logic and reason are united. That means that the body and the mind are one. Then we have the mind cannot sense reality. No, it cannot. It cannot do it by itself or alone. Because as I mentioned before, the body has sense, has touch, has our senses that will be mainly the sense of vision, the sense of smell, the sense of touch. The mind only has, one of the characteristics is that it has reason, logic, memory, and creativity. The mind is not disorganized. The mind is the most organized being, as we can call it. Right now, we're not going to ask questions right now, but the mind is the most organized thing that exists in the whole universe. Why? Because it has the sensorial order, according to Hayek. Hayek says that it first organizes, it senses the world around it with the body, then it comes and it acquires that knowledge, that all the perception that it felt, and then makes an interpretation out of it, and then it stores in memory, and then from memory it goes from learning. Then the function of the mind. The mind awareness is not polarized. What does this mean? We have conscious and unconscious. The conscious is what we know as awareness. We know awareness as having a questioning of itself and questioning its existence. Why am I here? What am I? What am I doing? And the other one that is unconscious. Unconscious is what sometimes we think about unnoticing details, not noticing everything, and that things can be subtle, but they're very important, and they can be important for our learning, even though we're not conscious or not questioning directly about it. Who created the mind? We know that the mind is not created by humans. That is impossible according to Leibniz. Leibniz says that it was created by a god. A God that is not religious is a greater, we refer as God as a greater being. And the mind cannot be more perfect. This means that the mind, the world, the universe that we live right now is the most perfect reality that it can exist. That is related to Leibniz, that I compare this to monads. The monads are, you can say, a representation of us and reality. So right now we're going to ask the questions that made me question. So first of all, this is a part for participation. I want even the guy from the audio and the cameraman to participate, please. So which has more impact in the mind, the conscious or the unconscious? My point of view, my point of view is that both. They have a dualism that are both important for us, but I want you to hear an argument that posed to me, that is opposing to me, that both the conscious and the unconscious is not important. Or do you guys all agree? Yes. Okay. Why did Leibniz said that the monads cannot be changed on the outside, but we change? What I mean by this is that monads have an internal qualities, and they're not affected on the outside. We can, as I explained before, monads are a representation of us, not necessarily us, but a representation of us. Why do you believe we change?
What do you mean?
Sorry. Yeah. So Leibniz says that we have the potential to change, but we don't change actually. So it's actually very confusing if you can say that, but that's why I'm asking, because I don't know the answer either.
Change physically, or you mean like personality?
I mean experience, personality, I mean even your physical, even if you lose an arm. Okay, why do we believe we don't change? Do you guys believe we all change?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that this is determined in our birth? Do you believe that is built up from our experience? Or we are born with knowing that we will change with that experiences?
I would say maybe we're not aware that we will understand that, but eventually we will find ourselves.
So what you're saying is that we are not conscious that we will change. Is that correct? Do you all guys agree? Okay. So we're unconscious of change. We're unconscious of our process of changing, but we are conscious of our change. That's very interesting. Why did God create a human and mind? Humans and mind, why? Why didn't he not create it? Do you believe that God made us because he just created us? We're down here. Like just, hey, God. I believe that he created us because he felt lonely. Because if we see why we have reasoning, logic, why we question things. Because he wants us to question and be with him in our thoughts. Because as Leibniz says, God thinks of us as us thinks of ourselves. It's not necessarily Leibniz, it's a quote that I found that is related to Leibniz. Is there another reason why Leibniz said that monads cannot change? But can't change. That is related to the second question, which I will pass because of time. How is it that the mind, being something not physical, being not only connected to the body, but be able to control and receive information from it, while the body is physical? So this is a question that I will answer myself. So I'm going to disglossarize or like separate the question in different things. How does connection work? Is there a universal need or necessity? There's a universal need for connection? Does connection need interaction? Is there a barrier that limits connectivity? Can something completely independent like a monad see a necessity of connection? I do believe that connection, even though a being or a molecule is totally independent, it connects itself by influencing others. I believe that connection is a universal necessity and a universal must, that it must happen the way we get influenced, or both ways. Connection does not need interaction, because I can influence someone from Asia by economy, which is like, for example, free market and stuff like that. And then, is there a barrier that limits connectivity? I believe that connectivity happens everywhere, anywhere, anytime. Even happens, our connectivity can come from different times and places. It can come from, you can say, my parents did something in the past that will affect me. That connectivity is something. So, can something completely independent? So I want Jose to answer, please. So, what is connection? Connection is one of the most mysterious things in the known universe, right? Yes. Is a connection tangible, measurable, or visible?
Okay. Really cunning from you to turn the tables and to us, but I can play along. I would say that probably measurable, not necessarily visible. I'm thinking about trying to understand connection beyond what is visible, in the sense that, for me at least, connection has to do with sense and with meaning, and not only with causality that I tend to identify with the visibility of the world.
Okay, I think that measurable, I think it depends, really. Because if we see that I cannot measure, for example, the connection of the mind with the body, but I can measure the connection between sickness with a virus. So I think it can be visible, but it really just depends, because it can be a connection between molecules. It can be a connection that is visible from a computer perspective, but I cannot see a connection between my besties, you know? Like, I cannot see connection with friendship. I cannot see that. Tangible? Really depends. If, for example, like molding, architecture. So I believe the question is duality. Connection has duality. And is connection limitless? I don't know. As I mentioned before, it can be limitless, it can be not, but I don't really know. I'm not God, I'm not infinite, so I don't really know. So thank you guys for putting attention for such a long time. I'm so sorry, but I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole. It was a very interesting presentation and a very reflecting one. We have heard some incredible presentations today, each one exploring different ideas and perspectives. Now it's my turn to present to you mine. So what color is the number 5? Or how much does a thought weigh? These questions force our brains to think differently. Exploring the possibilities of thinking, language shapes our minds. Every world reflects our thoughts and connects us to the world outside. Imagine we are kids again, playing in the mud, creating something new with the mess today. We are already doing that with a little bit of our minds, poking around and squishing some thoughts and exploring. So now close your eyes for a moment. No meditation involved, I promise. What comes to your mind? Maybe something you've been thinking about lately, or a random memory. The mind is like a giant playground where all sorts of things happen, mostly without us not even noticing. It's like a song imagined by John Lennon. It talks about living in peace, The mind has the capacity to imagine the world. It all begins in our minds. By imagining something, we can plant the seed, and from there, we can build something bigger and more tangible. Just as we imagine a better world, our minds shape and reshape our reality. Think about the last time you saw an object that seemed to have a face. Our brains love to play tricks on us, reminding us how much of our experiences are shaped by our minds. They are constantly at work, even when we're not paying attention. We think we're in control, making decisions consciously, but there's also unconscious mind, like the hidden part of an iceberg. Try to remember a smell from childhood, maybe like new school supplies or maybe Christmas. Isn't it cool how can we vividly create the image? The sensory memories shape who we truly are. As someone who loves photography, I'm fascinated by how we capture moments. We see this not as always what it is. We see not always what it is. Our minds add meanings, sometimes create stories. As in life, we're constantly interpreting and adding meaning to our experiences. And there's where freedom comes in. True freedom isn't just about choices. It lives in the union of our conscious and unconscious mind. So, is freedom the power to decide? Joaquin Fuster points out that our freedom to choose is closely linked to our brains, conscious and unconscious. Parts work together. It's not just about making choices. It's about decisions we're influenced by our conscious parts of our mind. Think like the mind, like the iceberg again. The conscious is just the tip below the unconscious mind, a huge, powerful force that guides much of what we do. Foster says that the real freedom comes from understanding how these parts of the mind shape actions. But also it's about recognizing and trusting our deep unseen parts of our influence decisions, how it influences our decisions. It's about using both conscious thoughts and our unconscious instincts that shapes us. But this isn't just about decision making. It's about interaction and connection. Think about how you move when you're walking or playing an instrument. Your brain and body are in constant communication, creating our experiences of the world. We live in a world of dualism. The world is in our heads, the physical world. This dualism shapes us. Language is the bridge between these two worlds, born from the need to connect our internal thoughts with the external world. As Bob Marley said in the Redemption song, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our minds. Meaning true freedom isn't the physical world. It's all about liberating our minds. Now, what happens when we are alone with just our thoughts? Solitude can be powerful. In those quiet moments, we reflect on what we truly want and need. Boredom becomes a gift, allowing our minds to wander and discover who we really are. For me, it's like playing the drums. Sometimes I'm in control, carrying a rhythm, going along with the rhythm, and sometimes I let go, and the rhythm takes me somewhere unexpected. The mind, it's like, and drumming are like, it's a dance between control and spontaneity, between what I know and what I'm still discovering. So, as Aerosmith says, dream on till the dreams come true. Our minds are full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. So, thank you. So, thank you. Today was our first MP Cafe of What is Mind and of the second semester. So, thank you, all of you, to come. And I hope you have a great morning and the rest of the day.